If you're looking for ways to sabotage your relationship this coming year, then look no further, because I am an expert on everything you need to know about destroying whatever intimacy or connection you have left. I've successfully implemented every single one of these habits, and I've figured out the perfect formula on how to ruin your relationship. Now, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, but Jimmy, most people don't want to ruin their relationships, right? I mean, after all, don't most people love each other? And to that, I would say, kind of. The truth is, love has almost nothing to do with whether your relationship survives or not, because thankfully, everyone has a different definition of what love actually is, and most people never talk about or compare their definition to their partners. There are actually millions of people out there that say they love their partner, but they refuse to learn how to actually resolve conflict respectfully. There's millions of people out there that say they love their partner, but they never actually learn how to listen or empathize or apologize. So if you were worried about love getting in the way, don't. Because you can still love someone and have no idea what closeness and connection require of you. You can actively destroy your relationship from the inside out with criticism or avoidance and still say you love your partner. So let's get started with the first way we can destroy our relationships this year, and that's just pure self-centeredness. Really gonna need you to tap into your inner narcissist here. Now, interestingly, almost no one admits to actually being self-centered, but their actions say otherwise. And I've met very few couples where both partners actually care to self-reflect and ask, in what ways have I been self-centered in this relationship? And the reason they don't ask is because they already know, I'm not the problem, my partner is. One of the best ways to sabotage your relationship is simply by intentionally or unintentionally only thinking about yourself. I mean, yes, you're in a partnership technically, but it's best if you just think about your needs and desires. We don't need to concern ourselves too much about how they feel loved and prioritized, right? So if they bring up a concern or feeling, and they will, complainers, it's best to just dismiss and invalidate them, because after all, we know we're right. Don't say things like, what led you to feel that way? Tell me about how that impacted you. Tell me more about your perspective. Those questions move us away from self-centeredness, right? Towards trust and emotional safety. And that's the opposite of what we're looking for. So what I need you to remember is 3 things: defend, dismiss, and validate. It's pretty simple. Between those 3, you can usually come up with something that leaves them feeling unheard and alone. You have a bunch of options to choose from. My personal favorites are, you're too sensitive. I guess nothing I do is good enough. Your feelings aren't my problem. Really anything in that ballpark, and you'll definitely achieve your goal of pushing them away. The next way to destroy a relationship is to create a power imbalance. We can combine this with any narcissistic traits that you have from before. Remember, you're the most important person in this relationship. So show it in your entitlement. Show it in your criticism. Show it in the way that you talk to them like they're a child. Show it in the ways that you keep things from them or you lie. Because after all, you know what's best, right? Show it in the way that you dismiss what they're saying as irrational, or just flat out convince them that they remembered everything wrong. Show it by putting them down. That's what erodes the trust and intimacy in the long run. If you forget everything else from this video, just remember, dominance equals destruction. Dominant people don't worry about meeting their partner's needs. They don't worry about equality, right? They certainly don't listen and empathize with their partner's feelings. I mean, they control and manipulate because they don't care about how those things impact their partner. Now, if we actually wanted to build trust and intimacy, which we don't, we would focus on sacrificing for each other, right? Taking accountability, listening without getting defensive, practicing vulnerability, being a safe place for each other to be honest. We would serve and appreciate each other equally. We would be intentional about reminding each other that we're on the same team, loving each other in the ways that we feel valued most. Now, thankfully, that's not our goal, because that junk is hard. It's actually way easier to just neglect your partner and rarely, if ever, put their feelings and needs above your own. Unless, of course, you do it occasionally, just so you can manipulate them later by gaslighting them into feeling bad if they ever complain about anything. You're really going to make a big deal about that? After I was so nice to you all day yesterday. Gosh, I guess I can't do anything right. Now that's a great way to destroy your relationship. Now another great strategy, since we're on the subject of neglect, is not having any boundaries at all. You see, boundaries are kind of like non-negotiables in your relationship. A great example of a boundary is, hey, if you call me names during a conflict, I'm going to leave that discussion. It doesn't require anything from the other person. I'm not controlling them. I'm informing them of what I will do if a certain situation comes up. Now, a great way to ruin your relationship and get completely walked on is never thinking about or implementing any of your boundaries. See, in a healthy, safe relationship, both partners want to know each other's boundaries. They actually want to know each other's limits. They want each other to feel safe to be honest about what makes them uncomfortable, right? Now, in a toxic relationship, we're terrified to share that information because we know the other person's just going to use it against us somehow. Being vulnerable and sharing a feeling only results in more fighting, not less. So it feels much safer just to people please and never set any boundaries out of fear that whatever shred of connection and closeness we have with them will be taken away from us. So we stay silent. But as the saying goes, when we stay silent to keep the peace, we start a war in ourselves. And eventually that silence turns into resentment and bitterness and eats away at us. And we snap and we get mean because we felt neglected and silenced for so long. We yell to be heard. We call them the same names that they call us. And we become someone we're not, all because we were terrified to set healthy boundaries. That's a great way to destroy a relationship. The truth is, it makes sense why you're scared to set boundaries with unsafe people. It makes sense why you feel like boundaries will never work with them. They won't. Boundaries don't work with self-centered, dominant people because, like we said earlier, they don't care about your perspective or needs. And the question you need to ask yourself is, how long can I stay in a relationship void of any actual connection or closeness? I mean, sometimes we stay and we just think, well, I'll just walk on eggshells better. I'll just avoid triggering them, right? I'll just avoid the conflicts. But the truth is, we know that we deserve so much better than that. And we're kind of self-sabotaging in a way at that point, aren't we? Which is kind of the goal, so well done. And listen, I would never want to victim blame. I'm simply saying you deserve the same kindness and respect that you give out to others. You never deserve to be yelled at, belittled, demeaned, criticized, or neglected. You are valuable and you deserve to be treated as valuable. And unfortunately, most of you grew up in families where they didn't teach you how valuable you were. So you have to go and relearn that. You need to reparent yourself and teach yourself just how valuable you are. Because couples that actually make it, they can have hard conversations. They see conflict as an opportunity to actually understand their partner better. I mean, we all mess up from time to time, but the couples that actually make it can take accountability and communicate without yelling or criticism or defensiveness or taking everything as an attack or just shutting down. Couples that make it learn how to listen to each other to actually understand their partner's perspective. They're curious first because they love this person. Couples that actually make it are intentional about being appreciative and affectionate with each other because they know that if you're not putting in intentional effort, you will unintentionally drift apart from each other. Now, here's the good news. Thankfully, a relationship always requires two people putting in the work to make it work. So even if you have one person who is willing to put in that intentional work, there's almost always that other partner who has no clue that they're actively contributing to the erosion of the trust, intimacy, and connection in that relationship. And when it's brought up to them, when their partner expresses feelings of loneliness or frustration, they will simply defend, dismiss, and invalidate. Just like I taught them, right? Hey, good luck out there this year. You're going to need it.